Hello everyone, and welcome to another tutorial where we will be working in both in Max, Zbrush, and Unreal Engine 4. The purpose of this tutorial is to get used to transitioning between multiple different softwares. Not just We're not only going to cover doing softwares, but we're actually going to be um, doing rocks. Because some of you have asked me, um, "Hey, Mark, I'm finding this very stressful in transitioning between Max and ZBrush, and I don't know where to start." So that's a good question that we will cover today. So let us transition to now let us transition to Max. So over in my other monitor, um, we will be making some rocks. So we can make rock formations. So actually, let's Google some rocks. Now let's get started. So rocks. It's the very thing that you see outside. It's it's nice. It's visually impressive, and it's a very hard place too as well. So we have multiple different rocks and rock formations. So in environments for stories and for movies and television, just like the classic Star Trek episode um, Kirk, um, with Kirk, with this famous iconic episode from Star Trek. I won't go into details on that. Um, we use background environments such as set dressing. So for background areas for rocks and for trees to really help sell the idea that you're in this environment. And as an environment artist, we have the utmost responsibility to make these such visually stunning environments in games. So when a player walks by while he's fighting multiple hordes of zombies or killer robots destined of destroying the world, you want to sell a visual appealing standpoint that and bring them into that specific environment. So let's go and search up um, rock formations, and let's find some good ones. I think these are no, these are they look good, but we need something basic to start off with. So let's approach this in a more easy and more subtle way. And let's actually approach. This one's not too bad, but this is a gate. So we're not making a gate. We're making rocks. So we want to try to at least not make things too complicated, but also try to make something visually appealing. And you don't want to spend too long in searching, so I'm going to pick this guy. So I'm going to go into View Image, ahead and save them. And I'm gonna go and save a file under our Nice Everyone Games folder, and I'm gonna call this new folder. Let's call this rocks and stuff. Or I'm just gonna call this rocks. I'm gonna call this rock formation 1. I'm gonna go and also shop around for another rock that we can use as another example, because today I want to show you 2 examples in this video. And now we will be right back. Now I'm back. Sorry for the interruption. So, what was I saying is that you would have to look for, we're going to also look for another reference for rocks. So I'm going to try, no, I don't want to search up Cape Rocks. So let's search up mountain rocks. Mountain rocks from India. India or the Himalayas would have good pictures. We're looking for some nice rocks from the Himalayas. Da 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 da. We're gonna look for some nice rocks in the Himalayas. And we found some nice rocks from the Himalayas. So there's a nice little gorge. So I'm gonna hard rocks India. Okay, so now that we have searched up our references, let's go and open these 2 up in right now. So what I am going to do is I'm going to lower my windows. I'm going to lower Photoshop, get rid of this because we don't need it, get rid of Steam because we're in productive mode, and we should stay in productive mode. Oh, there's Wycombe. Hooray! I will actually bring this up in a bit. So don't worry about that. Max. I'll bring that up. I'll bring our references up. Okay. So now looking at this, from our first method, straight from Max, we're going to choose one of these rocks that from our first image right here. So I am going to pick this rock. But the question is, that you're probably asking yourself is, why this hard bulky rock you've chose, Mark? Because there's this one is almost it's almost identical to this one, minus this part right here. So between these rocks, they're almost identical. But keep in mind that we are also making. You also want to keep an eye on making the silhouette of the rock too while you're making this. So let's go into Max and get this started. So, as old saying goes, let's do this from the Create tab. I'll go into Box, and I'll even things out by deleting the extra decimal points that we don't need. And it's all cool if you want to make it the same length. So I'm going to make it 300 by 300 by 300 by 500. We want our rock to be big, because it's going to be big as the person. You want to keep that in mind while you're making this. Is scale. So I'm going to bring in our character reference, because we're going to be bringing them into UE4. So I'm going to go back, and back. Screw you, ABG. I don't need you right now. UE4. I'm going to bring in our friendly max file, our FBX file. So now our character is here. So I'm going to bring him up just a bit. Yep, it's perfectly in scale. So I'm going to set our little friend over here, and I'm going to select him, and I'm going to free selection. Okay. Now, this part of the tutorial is also for beginners as well, that are trying to transition from multiple softwares, and it can get stressful when you're starting to learn this. So I'm going to show you an easy transition between these programs and help debunk some of the myths behind between Max and Zbrush, between the workflows between Max and Zbrush. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna call this rock formation BM for base mesh. Naming conventions is important. we'll definitely talk over this a lot more once we go on. So I'm gonna add some segments, or in other words, edge loops and geo. So we're gonna make it 5 by 5, 5. Yeah, 5 by 5 is good. And after that, I'm going to convert that into an editable polygon. Now, from approaching this, we can go from different ways of doing this. So I can, by pressing Alt-W and me jumping from front view and perspective. I can, however, edit the vertices from here and then just make it look like a weird shape. Go back to my right view. Actually, I'm going to go to my right view. Actually, I'm going to visit it. While working in ortho. But you want to consider as I've mentioned before in my previous video about modifiers, you want to try to be productive on that. So I'm going to go and use the FF4D modifier, and what it'll do is it'll create this bounding box right here for us. Now we can edit the vertices and make it into an actual box. Actually make it into a rough rock shape right here. So looking at my reference, we kind of see it extruding outwards from the right of the image. So going back to max. So let me just adjust this. So from what we're seeing, just go and quickly press Control Z, bring out this out a bit, and then also going from this side and adjusting our edge flow. So I'm going to go into the front view by using the view cube, and then I'm going to select I'm going to marquee select these control points right down here, and then all I'm doing is just stretching it out from where I've extruded it, just to create that actual shape. And then from there, I can just bring this down using Z just to create that slant. And then after that, I could just grab this part and just move this down a bit. And then pretty much I could just collapse it into another poly. But right now I don't want to. I can, however, use either symmetry, or I could just add another edit poly modifier. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add another edit poly modifier, and I'm going to extrude these out. And I'm going to select the polygons by holding Control and selecting them individually. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert, bring this up, so what we're going to do is we're going to extrude that, bring that out, because it has this big awkward shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with the faces and just move them down just a tad bit, just to play around with the actual shape of the model. So I'm just grabbing and then just pushing in these polys. I don't want to push them too hard, or otherwise I would have just go into edge and then just select them and just move them up a bit. If I find the grid to be annoying, I could just press G and then just turn it off. So I'm just going to zoom out. And then I'm going to bring some vertices in. Bring some vertices out. Just a tad bit. And I can just bring a group of vertices down. And then these guys, I could just do another way to do this. So let me hit Control Z for a bit. Another way to do this is to use soft selection, max. So I could just, so if I have this enabled, and what my current settings is, I can affect the polygon. So far it's set by default, and it's barely affecting anything. So if I increase the fallout, I see that more vertices are being affected by this. And I could really start to increase the threshold of my silhouette. And then once I'm confident that I have like the vertices that I need, I could just bring them out with the move pivot and just go and play around with it and see how the shape would look. And then doing the same thing with the others. I can also marquee select and just move it outwards too. And then I could also do the same thing down on the bottom too, with these bottom faces. And then I could just bring this up. And I could just move this to the side. And then I can move these sections right here. I could just bring that up a bit. Also the same thing with the other side too. I could just move that up and that inward. That should do it. Okay. And then as for the top, I can select these four vertices up at the top and then just move them down. So we could create like a slant. So now our rock is becoming more trippier, but is more and now our base mesh is becoming pretty decent. So I could start bringing some of these out a bit. And also I could just bring out these vertices right here as well. Just drag this out a bit and bring them out on the x-axis too. Now I can do the same thing with my x. I can just bring this down. Alrighty. So now that I'm confident, I'm going to deselect this, and I'm going to create another quick shape, another smaller box, but this time it's going to have this time it's going to have 10. It's going to be a little bit more dense than our first one. I'm going to set this to be 150 by 150 by 150. But this guy will go down at the bottom. And 15. Okay. Now I'm gonna collapse this as another poly. I know this mesh is going to be a little bit denser than this one. The more points we have, the better it's going to look. Now we're going to have to reshape this as the bottom portion of this. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to grab these edges right here. I'm going to grab these control points right here, bring them up, go to my left view, or left view, right click on these control points, and just move them over here. Right click and select these vertices and scroll them down by X. Now we're going to bring this. Oh. So I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to add another edit poly down at the bottom. And this one we'll do is we'll use soft selection again. We'll adjust our pitch to just a tad bit, and our bubble. And we'll start by moving in the select few vertices and words. So I'll select some vertices, bring them in. And then slightly I'll also grab like a, also go into Alt X and select a bunch of vertices right here, and then I'll bring them in by using, then I'll bring them out a bit by using Z, X and Y. And I'll also do the same by selecting this group here, and then extruding them by X and Y as well. And what I want to do is I want to bring these vertices out, or not too inward. As we see right here, it's also affecting some of the vertices from the back too. So we're going to turn off Effect Back Facing. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn down the fallout. And just bring this inward. And then select this group of vertices here. And this vert. And deselect this vert, because I accidentally selected it. And bring it out. Now it's looking more like a rock. And then it appears to be slanting down. So we'll do that by using the ribbon modeling tools. So we'll go up to Freeform, and then we'll go into let's shift this. Where's my smooth? Relax. So I'm going to use the Relax Conform brush, and I'm just going to stretch. I'm going to fix these vertices a bit. And then I'll do the same thing with this as well, by using my mouse. Same thing with the back. And the next question is, we need to, the next question you're probably asking me is, hey Mark, what about this area? So what about this area is that I can go back into, I can just apply another FF4D modifier. Ooh, now the magic is happening. So I can go into control points again, select these groups, and I can just do something like this. And I can just move these guys to the side a bit. And then I can, if I go back and do another effect with, no, that's conform. Relax. There we go. So if I relax these edges, it should be fine. If I go into my conform, it looks a lot much better now. Now if I want to preview our mesh, I could just press Turbo Smooth and jack up the iterations. Same thing with this guy too. But he's way too annoying in this process. For him, we would have to add in another turbo smooth, but we need more geo. So I'm going to use a modifier called OpenSubDev. What OpenSubDev does is it's not going to show like the actual true geo at first, so you want to turn off isoline displays. This is just for vertex boundary and for UV battery. That's for texturing, so leave that alone, always. So I can push this up to 3 even, but we don't want our mesh density to be too insane. So I'm going to leave it at B, and then I'm going to put on a editable poly. So I'm going to put on an editable poly modifier. Now our mesh should have a few new geos. So once again, either using soft selection and the relax conform brush right here, I can just edit my vertices the way I want to. I think we need to burn this out a bit more, so that affects a few number of vertices. We could use the back or the front view, so I'm going to go back to my front view and burn this out a bit. Do the same thing with this group. Burn this out. And then what I'm looking at is that this is out. This is outwards. So I'm going to select these groups. I'm going to push this out a bit. Not that much, not too crazy. And then what I can do after that is that I can just relax our edge loops and around certain places. And I can do the same thing on the other side too, where I feel like it would just be too sharp on other areas. I can just do the same thing around here, and also around here too as well, where I can get a good clean edge flow. And also in Edit Poly, I can also smooth out a number of edge loops right here. So I'm going to select these group of vertices here. And then what I can do is I can press Mesh Smooth. Actually, my mistake. There it is. Relax. We could just tell these vertices to relax. Because they don't need that much tension in their lives. Just like we do when we try to relax after a busy and long, stressful day. So I'm going to do this again. Relax. Relax, relax, relax. And I think that's it for this part. Okay. So now that I'm confident with my base meshes, I'm going to duplicate them. I'm going to call this master. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert them to an editable poly. And I'm going to attach them both to each other. And what I did was, is that Zbrush will recognize them when we bring it in as two different elements, as two different poly groups. So what I'm going to do is, in order for us to bring this into Zbrush, I'm going to do is actually, yeah, I think that's actually a good idea. Is actually bring this pivot down. Actually, vertex. So I'm going to go in the front, and I'm going to put this down at the bottom. D. So it's going to snap to the vertices right down here at the bottom. And what I can do is I'm going to bring this down to world space. I'm going to call this rock formation, and I'm going to export this as a rock formation. So going back to our tutorial rocks, I'm going to call this our rock base mesh. Rock formation base mesh. OBJ. And I'm going to leave this at default. What you would have if this pops up, just go and scroll all the way down. Just go under presets and then scroll all the way down to ZBrush and then just press export. And then when everything's okay, just press done. Okay. So now moving forward with Pixelogic ZBrush. Okay. So moving Max out of the way and onto my Wacom. Now we need to set up. So what we need to do is to do a few things. One is we need to set up our workspace within ZBrush. So over here is our menus up at the top, down at the bottom, and over there is our tools, our tool palette, which where our 3D meshes would be placed. So I'm going to open up, so I'm going to go and scroll my pen over to the divider. I'm going to click on it. And what we'll see here is this panel that pops up, just like the one on the right. And I can do the same thing on the right too. And I'm going to push down a few things. So I'm going to bring my preferences first, because that's important. I'm also going to bring in our Z plugin, which we will save for later. We're going to bring in our brush and our alpha, and we're going to bring our texture, and we're going to move it over here. So that's a lot of big steps. So first off is we're going to bring in our references from both of our, of our, um, both of the rocks that we did and that we've chosen while we were searching it up online. So I'm going to select both by hitting Control, selecting both, and pressing Open. And then I can see my two textures pop up right over here. I'm also going to bring in over our document as well. So we can double the length of our document, or I can just go over here and no, that's for when we bring in our mesh, and we can move it around from there. So I can zoom the document in. So this is just to double up our resolution for our document. So I'm going to double that up. Zbrush will tell me if resizing a document would be an appropriate operation. I will say yes. I can also adjust the background filter as well, so I can make it pretty white. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make it pretty white. We're going to adjust the gradient, so it's not all gray. And I think that's about it. So let's get started. Oh, I almost forgot. Quick save. In Pixelogic's ZBrush since ZBrush 4R6, you have this nice hefty feature called for quick saving your ZBrush document. And sometimes it would get annoying, and it will eat, and ZBrush will eat through your hard drive if you're not careful. If you have too many quick saves, and depending on how big your projects would be, it will eat it up. So what I would do is, and actually what Pixelogic, if you ask a person from Pixelogic ZBrush, or a ZBrush artist, they would tell you to recommend to put your quick save maximum duration minutes to 600 and your rest duration to 5 minutes. So, say for example, if you're away from your computer to go to the washroom, get a sandwich, get something to drink, or something else, I appear to have no internet. So, okay, moving forward. We don't need the internet. So that's good. Okay, so as I was saying, it's important to have this set. So the maximum duration will be at 600. The rest duration will be at 5 minutes. So as I said, if you're going to the washroom, doing something, and you're away for 5 minutes, this will automatically save. And then you could also delete quick saves too. So I'm going to set my quick saves up to 3. Just so I could save so I can have more control of when ZBrush quick saves, so that it wouldn't interfere when we sculpt. Okay, now that I've explained how this works, let's move forward and actually bring in our mesh. So I'm gonna go. Okay, so over up in Subtool, I completely forgot to do that. I'm gonna go and select Import 3D Mesh. I'm going to go into my Rocks folder, and I'm gonna select my base mesh, rock formation began. I'm gonna open it, and there's our mesh. Now the next question is, hey Mark, how do I bring it in to the document? And that's an easy part. Well, it might be hard, it might be easy, so let's actually do it. Let's actually give it a try. So I can drag it from anywhere. Um, I can bring it up from anywhere just by clicking anywhere on the screen and dragging it out by clicking and dragging it out. So it really doesn't matter like what size. Um, They'll bring it up anyways. And then once it's done, um, you can press it's done. Don't press anything except by either pressing Edit Object or T for Edit Object. Or otherwise, you would just be dragging out the same subtool over and over again. Oh boy, am I going to make a tileable texture out of this? Actually, it's looking pretty cool. Interesting. And we'll do the same thing for this one. Now the ugly red wax material is everywhere. And we'll get insane. I've created something monstrous. God help us all. So I'm going to hit Control N to reset, to clear out my canvas. You can also do that by going under Layer and then just pressing Clear. You can do that from there, but I find by pressing Control N, it'll quickly clear everything away. So I'm going to drag it out again. I'm going to press T, and you've done it. If you reached this point, congratulate yourself by doing a nice clap. Alright, clapping's done. Now let's get to it. So, the other thing is, I'm also finding, if you find that the red wax material, that the current default material is not that great, doesn't suit your style, don't worry. Just head over here to Material, and then go over to Matte Cap White Cavity. Or, you can change it to Chalk, or Matte Cap White, or Basic Material. But I'm going to go with Matte Cap White Cavity, because I can see the shadows a little bit more on the model, and it looks a lot cleaner that way. So I think before we get into sculpting, let's create our other mesh. Let's create our other rock as well. And let me show you another way of actually doing rock creation in Zbrush. So I'm going to bring in my other rock by going into textures. I'm going to also go to right down at the bottom, right where it says add to spotlight. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add to spotlight. I'm going to scale this up a bit, and I'm going to choose this rock right over here from the picture. So that's what I like the most from this picture, is that rock right there. And that's what we're going to do. It's simple, it's nice, it's got some, I don't know if that's, I think it's bits of rock right up at the top. Can't really tell what it is. Maybe it's corrosion. No, corrosion's from metal. Alright, so let's move forward with making a fresh mesh. So I'm going to press Control N just to get rid of the mesh that I have. I'm going to go into brush right down here, or brush from up on top here. I'm going to go into auto masking. Actually, that's for brush. Samples, and click off spotlight projection. So Zbrush won't get in the way when I actually make this. So when I start sculpting, it won't start sculpting on the actual rock and create some weird shapes that I don't want. Alright, I could go by using the Z-sphere, or I can go by using a cube and a sphere. So I'm gonna grab a polymesh star. One quick way that we could do this is by going into our geometry palette, and then right under crease is shadow box, and I can increase the resolution of our shadow box to about 512. Nope, 512. There we go. And polish is about 10. So I'm going to make this into a shadow box. And I'm going to press Z to access our spotlight projection. And I'm going to go over to our opacity. I'm just going to temporarily hide. I'm going to make it somewhat opaque so we can see our mesh more clearly. I'm going to also turn dynamic. So this is what our mesh currently looks like. We have a cube that surrounds our mesh, and from side to side we see the silhouettes from the front side, the left side, and from the top that make up our star. And it's using masking. So for example, if I mask this out, this thing would be gone. So if I use, for example, paints a sword, it would paint a sword, just like that. So what I want to do is I want to create a rock. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to hit Control, and I'm going to select our stroke while holding Control, and then selecting the lasso. And then what I can do is I can go and select anywhere on the box, and then I could just make out a rough shape of what a rock could look like. So it's looking pretty fat. So there's one side of it, and then the other side could be this big, huge obelisk. So I can just go this, that. Let's make like a little slope. Scroll all the way down, bring this up. Bring this down a bit. And then down from the bottom, could just adjust the mesh so it just scrolls all the way down, up, onto the front. And it's going to create more of a very well known shape. And you could also modify the shape too, what it will look like. So within the shadow, I can adjust the shape of it. And I can also take away how it would look. So, for example, coming through here, and that's how our shape would look like. So, I'm going to try out the curve stroke. Now, the curve stroke works by, if I go through here, it'll give me this line. So, it'll really do nothing for me unless I press Alt. So, it'll be like just an Illustrator. So if you used Illustrator before, it's kind of like the pen tool. But this one masks out our shape perfectly. And what I did from there, I just shaped it up. It's really done nothing for us so far, so I'm just going to go Control. Now, once I'm confident with my shape, and then once I'm pretty confident with it, once again, explaining myself like a broken robot, I can go and click off Shadow Box, and then there's a rough shape of my mesh. And then all I can do is just, and now when I look at it, it's almost half a million points, half a million polygons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and use Dynamesh, and it'll bring it down to 25,000, so that we could start fixing up a little bit more of the shape of this rock. So I can hit Control, I can use the lasso tool, I can bring this out. I'm also going to use, I'm also going to mask this out, this bottom part out. And then I can invert my mask by pressing Control I, or by going into masking my subtool palette and press Invert. And what I can do is I can hit Control and I can hit our next brush I'm going to use is the Move brush. So B and V, and then you notice our standard brush changed to Move brush. So when I adjust my draw size, or I press the spacebar to adjust my draw size, I can bring this out, and then I could just bring this out a bit. I can pull on the vertices. Just by simply just masking it out and just making it grow, and I can hold Control and then just masking outside the mesh. I've pretty much dynameshed it. Yeah, thank you, Origin. Uh-oh. Looks like Origin is offline. And I'm offline too. That's pretty bad. So I'm going to check quickly. Let's go to settings. Quick. So give me a sec, I will be right back. Alright, so back at it. Like this. Joy. Wonderful. Okay. So back at it. I'm making my rock. It's looking great. Yeah, I'm back. I'm reconnected back to the internet. Wonderful. Woo. So, back at it. I have my rock. I'm going to marquee select the bottom. I'm going to hit Control I, and I'm going to move it outward. Or just use B and E is a move elastic brush. And it's a weird looking brush that what I can do is I can treat my mesh like an elastic band and stretch it out. So that's what I did. And I can do the same thing on the other side. I can Control I, and I'm offline again. Perfect. And another method I could use is the transpose brush. So the transpose brush I can access while going up here by using draw, and I can use the move tool. I can just bring this out a bit. Oh, I'm gonna hold down Shift, and I can just simply just click and drag in any direction, and then selecting the middle ring right here and holding down Shift, I can just bring this out just like that, and that's perfect. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit Control. I'm gonna give it a name of Dynamesh Resolution. And I don't like how this is sticking out. So I'm going to go and use the Trim Dynamic Brush, B2D. I'm our next tool I'm gonna introduce is alphas. So what alphas do is you can bring any image or use any of these alphas that Zbrush has provided by using your best judgment. And then what you can do, this also works for coloring, and texturing in ZBrush. So I can bring down my draw size. I can click and hold Alt and zoom back in and out. And then I could just do this. I'm gonna hit my tilde keys, my bracket keys to bring down my draw size, and then I can just bring down my focal shift up, a little bit down, and then I'm in town. I can pretty much sculpt this how I want it. And then I can hit Control Z and I can just go back with my undo history. So what the undo history does is I can go and travel back in time with our undo history. It brings us back into our shadow box when we were first making it, to the very beginning of when it was a star. So it's gonna look back to where we had it. Perfect. Control Z. Going to sculpt a bit more on the side. Now the best thing also to do is just to kill some time while you're sculpting, is also just to listen to some music as well. It also brings out your inner creativity as well. So what I want to do is I want to mask this out. I'm going to press Control I, and I'm going to do this again, and I can also adjust my transpose tool. I can just bring this out. And then I could do the same thing down at the bottom too. I could just adjust this. And I could just mask this out and do the same thing again. So I'm going to bring this out. And I'm going to hit Control I and mask this out. And we're going to use the transpose tool and bring this out a bit. I'm going to go into draw, and I'm going to mask this out. I'm going to remesh this. So now it's looking more like a rock, of our own version of our own rock. That is, it's no longer part of it, but that also helps too when you're looking at multiple references. So I'm going to go in to trim dynamic again, and then just brush this down a bit. then I can also do the exact same thing again from this side. And I can also bring this out a bit too. Hit Control, and then I could also do is mask this out. And unmask this out like we did before. I'm going to hit Control I, and then when I invert it, I'm going to use our Move Elastic brush, or another brush I'm also going to give a try is the Snake Hook brush. The Snake Hook brush is a bit weird. It works pretty well for characters, but it also has some good effects as well. So I could just it's also good for extruding stuff out as well. And then I can use the move brush to move things back a bit. And then I can do the same thing on the other side too. And using the same thing again, I'm going to use Move Elastic too as well. And then just bring things out. Yep. And then when I'm happy with it, when I'm confident that this is going to be my, actually, scratch that. Let's smooth this out. Let's polish this out by using the high polish brush, BH. And then this is where our back face masking comes in. By going down to Brush menu, under Auto Masking, I can press back face masking, and then I can just do this. Even when I press it, no matter what I do, actually, that actually works. So the difference was when I put that on, no matter what I did, there's always like an edge of vertices or polygons popping out from the other side of that too. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm also going to use a brush, and I'm going to use freehand just to smooth things out. And then go to the other side. Alright, now I'm happy. I can just press Control and then just mask it out. Perfect. So now I have my two shapes. This guy and that guy. So that was another way of creating another rock shape from Zbrush. So that was two methods of creating both base meshes from Max and from Zbrush. Part 2 will cover um, pretty much adding detail to both, and then finally adding detail to both and creating the textures out of it. And then part 3 would be bringing it into Unreal. So I thank you for watching, and have yourselves, and stay tuned for part 2.